how to make and introduce a key set piece for your role-playing scenario, for your book, for your whatever you're planning, an RPG game or a campaign. This is one of those situations when, say you have a villain and the villain is supposed to dramatically appear at a business deal in front of the party in a non-fighting environment, but then the room is big enough to have set up many traps and many minions that pour behind the curtains into the room, and everything escalates, and the villain departs with a dramatic speech after a dramatic conflict that was breathtakingly narrowly avoiding the edge of death for the players, etc., etc. But how do you get the players to sit exactly in those chairs and sip exactly that tea that has exactly those components? How do you get them there without railroading? Because I never railroad, and you don't need to either. It's a choice, but you don't need to. It's not a necessity in almost any scenario that I can imagine. Why? Because of this technique that I'm going to relate to you today. One way is to simply plan for likeliest steps and move the room a little here and there. It's not going the full quantum ogre theory of railroading, where you plop this wherever it may be needed. Players choose left, you put the room left. Players choose right, you put the room right. You don't go that far, but you set up the probabilities. You have ahead of time connections. This person is connected to that person, they are blackmailing that person, and therefore they'll send your player characters or your protagonists to go to that person, and they'll want to set them up so that this happens, etc., etc. But this is a complex technique, and I suggest that as you trying it second, when you're much better at it. For the beginning, there's a actual really simple one. Really simple one. This one will save your effort many times. And it's good for pros as well. Even if you know how to do the previous perfectly, it'll still be useful at least 1/4 of the time, I feel. This other technique, this simple technique, is the following. As long as you have the time, you can wait for the perfect opportunity. Try to train your technique of setting it up, but you do not have to insist, you do not have to persist. You just wait and make sure you have minimum requirements. It doesn't have to be a business meeting, it doesn't have to be a room, it doesn't have to be minions, it can be different traps. They don't have to be traps, it can be circumstances, it can be bad weather, it can be the villain actually saying bad things about your party and making mob rush them as opposed to minions. Make it highly modifiable, slick scenario that can fit into almost anything as long as you have key elements that make the thing the key set piece that you wanted to have in the beginning. Why is it so dramatic, hot, cool, etc.? Why you want it to be so good? Why you want it to be so excellent? What makes it so dramatic? What makes you excited about it? Keep exactly the spots that make it exciting for you. Keep the things that make it a good idea, but discard everything else down to bare bone, and then be ready to have it be modular, to arm it with whatever circumstance or possibility, to plug it in at a moment's notice, at the blink of an eye, into the scene whenever. That's what you should do. And that's what you should do as a dungeon master. Most of all, because all other professions, if you want to call them that, have different times of preparation. Dungeon master has, on average, least. You need to improvise a lot. In fact, I prefer to improvise nearly everything and to fly by the seat of my pants. I prefer to sit there and DM at the spot. I prefer to not need to pre-write things, to pre-plan things whatsoever, because it's more alive, it's more dynamic, it's more responsive, it's more interactive like this. And therefore, make your plot points bare bone, but poignant. Make them perfectly specific, yet perfectly generic. Perfectly specific in areas that are very relevant for feeling and action, very generic in everything else, so that you can specify them on the spot. And then just Then things escalate in the campaign dramatically enough for you to feel that now is the moment, that this matches perfectly, that this is such a good deal now, then you plug it in. But wait, you might ask. Isn't this gonna be too long of a wait if I have one event that I need to wait for specific circumstances to make it great, and then I'm going through several sessions and waiting and waiting and waiting? Is this not gonna be bad? Well, if we do it like that, it would be bad, but what we want to do is have dozens of events pre-prepared, that most of them are not linearly reliant on timing between themselves, so that you have a bag of tricks. You have them ready to put, and there's many of them. So you have 30 times the opportunity. If you had one, you have one opportunity. But if you have 30, you have now 30 multi-matching pieces that can be plopped down. This gives you many, many probabilities to happen, to go towards what you want. And then once you spend some, you refill. Once you spend some more, you refill. You interactively add to already existing story after the story has happened, in between the sessions and realizations of story arcs, if you're a writer, not an you just pour in some more when you get some resolutions. Resolutions give you ideas, ideas give you new arcs. And you refill. And your bag keeps topped off. So, adventure, if you thought this was unique, maybe you can spare me a click and I could see you here next or even every week, because every week I have more such things for you. I make them myself. I'm Em, and welcome to dMTable.